Evening, welcome to the select board meeting of May the 6th. I want to remind everybody that this session is being broadcast and being recorded. First order of business is the consent calendar, of which there are the town council warrants, minutes from April 1st, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Mike, can we first and eighth,
Right. First, not the 9th. Thank you, and first and the 8th. We have a proclamation for Public Works Week, a gift acceptance from the Concord Rotary Club of $10,000 for the bicycle program gift account, and an anonymous donation of $1,000 to the Middlesex Jazz Festival gift account. One-day special licenses at Chamber of Commerce, May 14th, 6 to 9 p.m. at 200 Strawberry Hill Road, all alcohol. Alice Coppin, 516, from 5 to 9 p.m. at 54 Walden Street, wine and malt. Barrel Farm, May 12th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 11 Wheeler Road, wine only. Concord Orchestra, May 17th, 18th, and 19th, from 7 to 11 p.m. at 51 Walden Street, all alcohol. The Umbrella on May 9th, 10th, 11th, 16th, 17th, and 18th, from 6 to 11 p.m. at 57 Old Road to 9 Acre Corner, wine and malt. The Umbrella, 5/12 and 5/19, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at 57 Old Road to 9 Acre Corner, wine and malt. Concord Country Club, 5/10, 5/17, 5/31, 6/1, 6/14, 6/22, and 6/23, from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., 246 Old Road to 9 Acre Corner, all alcohol. Sunday entertainment license, Concord Country Club, June 23rd and September 8th, from 1 to 5 p.m. at 246 Old Road to 9 Acre Corner for a golf tournament. And the Concord Orchestra on May 19th, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., 51 Walden Street for a Pops concert. And we also have the Silent Fund Camp Scholarship.
I move to approve the consent.
Yeah, I have a question. The Rotary Club, that's a very nice gift. Is there any more information about what this bicycle program is special?
So I attended the opening of the visitor center and the bike share program, and it's the bikes that are the rental bikes program that is between Concord and West Concord at this point.
They're located behind the visitor center.
Correct. And in West Concord.
And West Concord.
And West Concord, they're close to the Bruce Freeman trail.
So this money will be used to buy some bicycles and some racks and start the program? Is that the idea?
I think they probably had to make an initial deposit to get the program off the ground. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
For the equipment.
Any other questions? Are we ready in for a vote? Yes, we are. All those in favor?
Aye.
What's the issue?
Oh, I need to, don't we need to move to approve?
I think you did.
Okay. You got a second?
Was it second?
No.
No?
Second?
This is just so much fun. Are you ready for a vote now?
Yes.
All those, Carrie, you?
I'll vote yes, but I might need to abstain on the minutes that I wasn't a select board member on.
Tell us what those are, both of them?
Yes, the first
Same
one.
with you? All right, so you will amend your motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda. I move to amend the consent agenda to abstain Ms. Ackerman, Ms. Bates from the minutes of 4:1 and 4:8.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's adjourn. All right, thank you very much. I think while it says our next item is approve executive session minutes, we're not going to do that. So the next is town manager's report. Town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a lengthy report, so bear with me. busy time of year. The board received notice last week that the property at 68A Monument Street, 2 acres of a 4.5 acre parcel enrolled in the Chapter 61A program, is being sold, and the town has first rights of refusal. So I've notified the housing folks and the open space folks that we normally notify of that opportunity, and the board will want to consider that at some future point after hearing from
I
housing.
will note that you provided the board with the documentation.
The Recreation Department is on Saturday, May 8th, will have its 4th annual Stowe Street Block Party, and they'll also be combining that with a bicycle event. Moved to the Visitor Center on Saturday, the 18th, so everybody's invited to participate in that event. The second White Pond Beach Public Forum has been scheduled for Tuesday, May 21st at 7 p.m. here in the Townhouse, where the Deputy Town Manager and the Recreation staff will hear from anyone with concerns about the operation of the beach for the coming summer. The White Pond NRC has begun, and Delia Kay has begun the White Pond Slope Restoration Project in Sachem's Cove that started today. So the trails will be restricted for the next 6 weeks or so as they replace the steps that lead down to the pond and otherwise improve the drainage that's happening out there. And it's expected that the trails will be back in service by July 2nd.
Are the Rangers also involved in this as of now, or is it?
I don't know if they're involved in the construction. They're involved in the
Yeah.
regular enforcement
I
activities.
just wasn't sure whether they were on staff yet.
They've been hired. I don't know if they've started yet, but two rangers have been appointed. Kate Hodges, the Deputy Town Manager, is also working with the Emerson Umbrella folks and the library to discuss a parking lot management agreement. We have one for the Harvey Wheeler Community Center, for the Children's Center, and the 3 entities that utilize the Harvey Wheeler parking lot. Something similar to that should probably be devised for the Emerson Umbrella Library lot, just to be sure that 2 major events aren't scheduled for the same evening. The planning department at 141 Kaiser Road experienced a flooding event where there was a leak in the ceiling due to a heat exchanger coil broke and leaked. Luckily somebody was there when it happened, but some extensive damage on the planning side. The NRC and inspection side was not impacted, but planning department staff have relocated to 37 Knox Trail for a month or so until the carpets can be replaced and other repairs made. The Public Works Commission is meeting on this Wednesday, May 8th, to have their annual water and sewer rate hearing. So we'll be considering the increase in water and sewer rates this coming Wednesday. West Concord Advisory Committee's annual open house is also Wednesday, May 8th. That's at the Harvey Wheeler Community Center at 6 p.m. Baker Avenue is under reconstruction. Drainage work is happening now. And as part of that drainage work, a gas main was hit by our contractor, Fenton. So it was an unmarked gas main. The dig safe work was done, but it was not marked. So the road had to be closed while the gas company addressed the break. Town employees will be recertifying the conflict of interest law every 2 years. They have to take an online exam to recertify, and we've set a deadline of March 17th for employees to complete that. Special May, excuse me, it says March, but I meant May, so. The special election, again, has been scheduled for June 4th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Absentee ballots must be applied for by June 3rd. The Health Department has received a $25,000 grant, anti-vaping educational grant that they'll share with the towns of Bedford and Carlisle, and be working with schools in all 3 towns. The Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, it's not officially open yet. The holdup on that is the portion crossing the active rail line. The Keolis is working on that and is supposed to complete that work by the end of this month. And after which, if that happens, some kind of a ceremony, opening ceremony will be held by Mass DOT in June. The design for the bridge over Route 2 has been completed. The NRC will be hearing, the notice of intent was filed with the NRC. If permits are granted in the next few months, then the project will be put out to bid. And if it happens early enough, then we could actually see some construction on that project this fall before the winter season sets in. And let me see, lastly, the light plant, couple light plant items. Light plant is looking to do a pilot project on battery storage. Rather than try to get a megawatt or 2 of battery storage, they're going to start with 100 kilowatt installation, and to get some information on how to store electricity in the off-peak that's generated either from solar, either our own solar or private solar, and so that we don't face that limit on solar. You know, there's one circuit near where the landfill is. This high school couldn't put much solar on because it's maxed out. So we want to study how we can store that energy during the workday when the demand is low, and make it available from 5 to 9 p.m., which is our peak. There's 330 electric vehicles registered in Concord according to the motor vehicle tax information, so that's increasing. And lastly, Leslie Wilson, the special collections curator for many years, will be retiring in July. And on Thursday there was a well-attended event to begin her last exhibition at the library called Curator's Choice, which by all accounts is very interesting, and it's worth taking a look at. I believe it is, yep, for the next month or so. There were 250 people at the library on Friday to honor her for her years of service as the curator. Thank you, sorry about that.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for the town manager?
Busy week.
So I have just a quick set of remarks, and I will apologize again to newest members, but in my desire to thank folks for the very effective town meeting we had and all the work we've done there, I failed to acknowledge the fact that we had 2 new members of the select board and welcome them. We just put them right to work and made them vote on things. So Susan and Terry were delighted you're with us, and we've already put in a lot of work with the meeting we had a couple weeks ago, and then the marathon session we had Saturday to try to find a new town manager. But delighted you're with us, and look forward to your 3-year term and re-election, 3 more years coming along. I would note that just the rec department announced today the date for, I think it's the 3rd annual jazz festival, which is going to be held in the same place as before, back in the Casual parking lot, I believe, on June 8th, from 1 to like 6 p.m. And if you hadn't had a chance to go there and see it, that's quite fun, and big improvements from the first year to the second. So I expect we'll see some big improvements as well. So that's really all I have. I'll have another remark near the end of the meeting, but no, that's all I have. So next up is a review and approval of the White Pond Association gift agreement, which we have, and Chris, I think,
So
to you on this.
this says this reflects the work of Kate Rogers and I on the land use aspect, but the attorneys for both parties, Stephanie Debanowitz, who is the conveyancing attorney from Anderson Krieger that's representing the town, and Tom Falwell, the attorney representing the White Pond Associates, have agreed to these terms. So it is the board, it had a town meeting authorized the select board to accept the gift. This isn't a form, I'm not asking you to formally accept it because there may be some last minute changes on the White Pond Associates, but it'd be nice to send a signal that the board is generally comfortable with the terms as you see in the draft gift agreement.
All right, well, I don't know if that's just a motion or a sense of the select board, but
A motion, I think a motion would help that you approve in concept or roughly or approximately in the language that substantially.
So Chris, when will we get some of the exhibits that are not filled in yet?
The maps are available. I'm sorry, I should-
What I'm looking for is the license agreement.
That is, they haven't signed off on it. We have
Okay.
asked for some months now for a license agreement, and we drafted something, but they've looked at it, but they have not responded.
And then there's a exhibit D, which is a letter, and I can't remember what that is right now.
Sorry, I will get.
I can't even remember what that one was right now. The rest of it looks great to me. but it
Okay,
just-
so let me be sure you
It's
get
like just
that,
not blank right now.
and I can get you the draft license agreement as we proposed it. They have not agreed to our terms, but I'll get you those 2 documents. I'll send them out to everybody.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
okay, you have something else for me?
No, to make a motion to give a sense, you're looking for a sense of the committee?
Well, we have it on our check. We have it on here,
Right,
so
Jim.
we'll read it.
I move to authorize the town manager to sign the donation agreement for the White Pond parcels substantially as drafted or as presented by Town Council Anderson and Krieger on behalf of the town with input from the White Pond Association. Again, subject to minor edits as deemed necessary by the select board chair, town manager, and/or town council.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Next is reviewing the draft letters which we do have to our legislators regarding the affordable housing articles. That's Article 25 and 26, right? My intent is after, if we approve these, we'll send them in the mail along with the actual approved warrant articles from town meeting.
Okay.
And then I intend to meet with them both, and I'll ask Linda if you can to join me, just to impress upon them this is important for the town. If they could work hard to try to get this legislation approved. So are there any comments or questions about the draft letters?
That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I assume that, as you said, will indicate attachments.
Right.
All right, if there is no further discussion of that, I would entertain a motion.
Move to authorize the chair to sign and transmit letters to legislatures, to both Senator Barrett and Representative Gouveia regarding the affordable housing articles substantially as drafted by.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I note that it passes. The next article is the Affordable Housing Trust. Two documents that I want to make you aware of. I sent you copies of some material that was forwarded to me from a consultant who had worked with Brookline, Duxbury, and Rockport, Maine. And the two things that I forwarded you was, one was a draft trust agreement, and the second was just how various towns have gone about the
Right.
business of selecting their, thank you, selecting various structure and duties and responsibilities. And then late today, we received an actual copy of the proposed trust agreement. You and Carrie.
I don't know. I did not work on it.
Okay, so Carrie, what she said she would do, drafted that. So I think what I would encourage you to do is spend some time looking at those documents. And then hopefully this draft that Carrie did, as you'll recall, that we thought it would be a good idea to seat a short-term committee to advise the select board about composition, duty, and responsibility. And that's what Carrie.
I'm sorry, I did, the document that was sent at 5 o'clock this afternoon, I didn't send it to you.
And so I thought it was well done. This draft was sent late in the day. So it lays out the background, the purpose, the membership, and duties and responsibilities. And I would just ask you to review this juxtaposed against the other material, and that hopefully we could come back at our next meeting in late May and actually approve this and get this committee seated so we can get on with the business. Did you have a comment?
And also in the interim, I think we might have an opportunity to look at a couple other examples that may speak more to the revenue side of it.
Well, again, that's right. And again, that I would hope would be material we would want to pass on to them, to this committee, once we get it seated, and they could come back to us. So we've got some time in the sense that the legislature needs to approve these two warrant articles. But I'd like to get this, done as quickly as we can. So if you could review, and if you have comments on the trust agreements, if you would send them to Andrew, and I'll let Andrew collect them. And then we can come back at our next meeting and hopefully get this charge done. Okay, does that seem reasonable to you?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The next is to review and approve the middle school building committee charge. And nominated members. Andrew, I don't see on the nominations later on that we were able to capture a separate list.
Yeah, so I sent out the list of the names. I could print off another one for the board, and I also received another green card at 5:30.
Well, no, the issue for me was, for the audience, there are, if we approve this building school, middle school building school committee, there are citizens that would be appointed to it. And then there are members who are appointed by dint of the office they hold, the school superintendent, the town manager, the finance director, that kind of stuff. And so what I was hoping we would be able to do would nominate those statutory people tonight. So do we have a list?
Yeah, so I have a list on page 2 of the motions.
On page 2 of the minutes.
Yeah, for town and school people. So you'd have like,
So we'll just, assuming we approve this list.
Yes, so we can go to the.
Yeah.
Thank you, I didn't see that, I apologize. So, Andrew incorporated, remember last time we heard concerns about incorporating language about sustainability in the charge for the committee, and Andrew made those kind of changes.
so at the end, we would put that, the sustainability principles as an attachment.
As an attachment.
And then did you want an attachment as Article 14, copy of the vote from town meeting? Would that be correct?
Say it again?
Article 14, the copy of a vote from town meeting? You want that as an attachment to the charge as well as a reference point? Okay.
So, I think we have incorporated all of the concerns and ideas that we have heard from the folks at the schools and from the folks with sustainability. So, do you have any additional Kara, I thought you sent me an email.
I have a question, yes. Are there 16 people listed to be, 16 members will be on this committee, or am I counting wrong?
60.
So we don't want to add,
So, add a 6th person to the members at large.
Do that?
I'll make it 6. I mean, that's pretty simple.
But it's a good,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a large committee, so.
It's very
the
large.
likelihood- Well, I don't mean it like that, but I mean the likelihood that a large committee splits.
Evenly.
You know, it's not- But I don't have any problem at all adding a 6th member of the community at large to this. Without objection. All right, so we'll change that to 6. And then are there any other comments or questions about this?
So there's total 17 members.
Say what?
17 members now total. 17 voting members.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, I just wanted to make a comment. I will be voting for this, but I feel really strongly that the middle school and all future building projects should be part of a grand capital plan. And I know we're going to be working on that really soon, and I'm just hoping that by the time the feasibility study is complete, that this
So
project
to the
can,
capital plan.
right, it will be part of the capital plan.
We've heard a lot from a lot of people about producing a 10-year capital plan with not only, here are the items we think we're going to need to deal with, but also some estimates of their costs, so that we could perhaps look at, I'm just making this up, some kind of staging, gee, we can't do that
That's
now,
right.
the impact on that kind of thing.
That's right.
So, just for the record, I think my response to you was, I think we should take that up in the goals of the
Right.
select board for the coming year, so that we don't lose track of that. and get
Correct.
it going. All right, so are we ready for this? Okay, that's the question.
I know.
So we,
Wait, Linda has,
Yeah.
Andrew, you asked about the two appendices.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as the document itself says, notes the attachments,
Yeah, we're gonna put at the
Yeah.
last page, like the other charges, attachments. And so, yeah, I just have a copy of the vote in town meeting and, the sustainability principles.
The only reason I'm zeroing in on that detail is because we haven't picked up narrative in the charge itself referencing those, but if you, as long as you've noted the attachments. Yeah.
All right, well, that's
The terms for this committee till the completion, is there a term limit to this? Is it for?
No, I don't think we should do that because we don't exactly know, and the timeline is not completely under their control, because they're gonna be dealing with RFPs and outside people, so I think we should, if we think it's dragging out for some reason, I think we should say something, but I wouldn't want to put a barrier up that turns out to be something we just have to go back and change.
We ready?
I think we are.
Okay, I move to approve the middle school building committee charge as drafted, revised, and with any future attachment.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Well, the thing we will do now is in charge with this, we have to pick, so there are statutory people, and there are people that are representing, so the school committee can either pick two of their own people, or they can have a designee. The town finance director can serve on the committee, or she can have a designee. The select board, the way the committee reads, the select board will pick somebody, so, are we interested in talking about that for a minute, see if we can figure out who that's gonna be?
Whoever one pick is.
The only thing I think it should not be either Jane or myself, because it might go beyond our terms, and that just seems not
So
smart.
in the draft of the liaisons, I think you had already made Susan Bates for the middle school, is that correct?
I have,
Yeah.
but that's.
So
That was a draft.
Yeah, draft suggestion, so.
That's fine with me. I would entertain a motion to appoint Susan as a select board member to be on the middle school building committee.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
So that was an appointment?
That is, we have discharged our responsibility from the building committee charge to appoint a select board member, so we've done that.
Okay.
Right?
Are we ready to entertain the nominations?
No, I think we'll do nominations at the end.
These are for the
No,
town
for the-
officials,
for
town
the,
schools and officials.
For the official positions, we haven't done that.
Okay, if that's what you want to do, I just.
Oh, I thought that
I
was.
work with it.
Well, I'm following direction.
We are.
I am.
Rules. I'm just kidding, that's fine. I was gonna just take them up at the end of the meeting with all the other nominees. I've got no problem.
Oh.
If somebody wants to put a motion on the floor now for these statutory members, I'm all for it.
I move to nominate the statutory members for the middle school building committee charge, middle school building committee. The nominations are as follows: the town finance director or designated representative, Harry LaFleur. The superintendent of schools, Lori Hunter. The school director of finance and operations, Jared Stanton. A school facilities manager to be determined. The middle school principal, Justin Cameron, and the Concord Sustainability Director, Kate Hanley, along with, obviously, Susan Bates from Select Board.
For those of you that pay attention to the charge, you'll also note, is there a second first?
Second.
You'll also note that the town manager would also be appointed to that, but I think we'll hold off on that.
Oh, come on, Chris.
Take a look. You can do it on committee. Any other comment? Yes.
So the school facilities manager, I don't know who that is.
Sarah Stant, she.
No, that's, he's
Facilities
oh,
manager, I
he's
think,
the
is
director of finance.
To be determined.
To be determined, okay, so that's not on there, okay.
So, any more? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, So the next item of business is long-range plan update. For the audience members, the board had the responsibility in February of reviewing various sections of the long-range plan and reporting back to the full board so that what they believed was the most important aspects of that. That was done. I produced a summary document of that and distributed it a while ago. At our last board meeting, what we suggested we were going to do is we were going to go back through that summary document and highlight action items and place those action items in one of three categories, high, middle, low, priority. So that was our task. I will tell you, I did it, but I found it hard to do. And so what I did instead of what we sort of agreed to was I tried to list the sections themselves of the long-range plan, sections 4, it's the section 4.1 through 4.8. Rather than do individual items under it, was to take the sections and decide whether the sections were of high, medium, or low priority. What I thought, after I spent time, is if we could get agreement on that, I don't know that we will, but if we could get agreement on that, then the next task would be to articulate within those high categories the specific action items that might illuminate the category. So Terry took the task exactly as we talked about it.
Well, I tried actually to do it your way, because that seemed really easy, and I couldn't do it that way, because all these goals overlap in many sections.
Yep.
Yep.
So finally, I picked several items in each section that I thought were high priority. And that just worked better for me. But, I mean, I just couldn't say that fiscal planning or transportation or land use was more important than another, because they just overlap too much. And I had a lot of difficulty with that.
For me, there were some that were easy, like,
Yeah.
because we've already sort of acted on one, there was a housing
Right.
section. It seems to me we've already said that's a high priority, we've already done a bunch of.
It's underway.
It's underway,
Right.
so that seemed to me to be pretty straightforward. Section 4.8 is fiscal planning, and I didn't put it in a high priority, which is neither here nor there. But I would have put it in a high priority if the capital planning was to me, more explicit. What I didn't want is the plan also talked about additional activities for sort of on an annual basis fiscal planning, and I just personally, for me, I didn't see that was all that important. I mean, it was already sort of looked at fairly carefully by the finance committee and the town in its preparation of the budget, and the schools in preparation of their budgets. And the finance committee has talked about additional mechanisms that they intend to use to try to make their processes more robust and informative for the town. So I thought that was underway. Capital planning, we gotta get that moving, right?
So are you saying that the finance committee is robust in many ways, but in the capital planning, you would put that part as a high priority?
I would.
Right, and that's exactly what was happening in each section. I was saying, well, this part we're doing well, but this part needs to be a high priority. So,
That's why I gave up. So what are your other thoughts about things that we would categorically put in high priority? So we can agree that whether we do it with capital planning, but I would suggest that we deal with that in our own goals for the year, rather than have it elevated as a high priority in the long run. But that's just my opinion. So I want to hear from the rest of you, what you think about.
I think it should be as high priority on anything we can put it on, because it is. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about it, and I like what you said on your summary here about identifying it as a specific process.
Okay, Susan? Or-
So, I looked at Mike's suggested listings, and I agree that I think economic vitality was important to be in that first category. I certainly agreed that transportation, as well as the affordable housing, because I think there's more work to, but it's underway, but there's more work to be done there. I think I wrote back to Mike and said that for me, the finance probably was higher than the, but you've given a rationale why you put it where you put it. So that's generally where I came in on that.
Okay,
I think it's more, my reaction is more practical. When are we gonna tackle these things? And we can say that in the Envision Concord, we can prioritize them according to this, but I agree that I think in our goals section, that's really where it speaks to the items that we pulled out, because unfortunately neither Terry or Susan were part of the process of putting this together. And our goal in doing this, when we did it, was to think through each of the sections from the standpoint of the select board's responsibilities.
Right.
And that's where, again, I think it's tied to our annual goals. So however, whatever we agree on is high, it has to be reflected in our goals. Because that's,
Right. And
absolutely.
in fact, in my initial draft response to this year's goals, going forward,
yeah.
I actually picked up a few examples of that, even on the first cut, and put them there.
Right, I did that also, and I don't know where this comes from, this top 10 select board actions for the Envision Concord. It's probably in the document somewhere, but I'm not sure exactly where, but
It was one of the, as
Right.
the Envision Concord process.
right,
I don't know, I think it was somebody else's top 10 list for us. I don't know if there was
No, I'm not saying we did, I'm saying it was,
I was assuming it was developed by the Envision Concord.
right, that's,
Not that this board did. But I thought that several of them on here were really excellent and tried to incorporate that.
I have absolutely no objection to those four that have been articulated: capital planning, affordable housing, economic vitality, and transportation being the ones we focus on. I'll just say again, for capital planning, it's more of a task. And it's an important task, but it's more of a task. Affordable housing is going to be an ongoing, continuous effort over many, many years to get our arms around that. Transportation, the same, and economic vitality. So I differentiated between the task, important as it may be, and something that is going to be multi-year sustained effort necessary to affect any real kind of change for the town. But I got no problem with it being the high priority list, because we sort of know what we're going to do. We're either going to ask the town and the schools to come up with a plan that can be reviewed, or we're going to see the committee and ask them to go do it. I mean, I don't know which one we're going to do, but I'll bet you a nickel. One of those two things is what we wind up doing. So,
I see the quizzical look or pensive look over there. Task in the sense that we develop a charge and we want for the capital planning, perhaps that will be the task end of it for us to handle. Not that it won't be multi-year effort.
it'll be repetitive. I mean, it'll be
Yeah.
revised and updated on an annual basis.
but it won't, I think what I'm hearing Mike say is it won't be organic. It's not going to be, we're going to come up with a process. Whereas affordable housing is going to be an organic process.
Right, but I think you made a really good point, Jane, that I think what I heard you say was that for each of these big topics, we need to come up with some tasks that we can start doing.
Oh,
Maybe I misheard you.
No, that was the goal of the summaries themselves.
And then we can put that in with our select board goals also.
Where there are obvious tasks. It doesn't mean that every one of those sections is gonna have an obvious item for the select board's responsibility.
Okay, but probably will, like affordable housing had some that was already done quite a bit
But
on.
then it would be following up.
Right. And transportation, I found some that I think we should get going on it. I think probably anything that we decided is high priority, there would be some select board tasks that we can do.
Right, but for instance, in open space and natural resources and land use, we have active departments who are very
Right.
engaged in those spaces, and you know, other than the opportunistic moment, when
Okay.
property arrives and, you know, it immediately becomes something we engage on.
Right.
And some of the direction for this will be embedded in the town manager's goals, I suspect, in addition to ours, in terms of the direction going with senior staff around some of these items.
Yeah, I think there would be, if we've got a point of view about capital planning, for example, or economic vitality, we hope the town manager's objectives would line up with that. If that's what you want to get accomplished, here's what I should probably do. That would be, you know, like working with the town departments or like that. So how do you feel about listing those four as the things we want to really focus on? Affordable housing, economic vitality, transportation, and capital planning. That'll keep us busy for a while.
Oh, come on. You get it done.
What do you think?
It's a good idea.
All right. So I think the next thing I'd like to suggest is that for each of these, one of us take the lead, reviewing the documents in more detail, and coming back to the committee with, you know, what might we do? What would be, if capital planning is the thing we're gonna pay attention to, how are we gonna try to deal with that? For example, see the committee, ask the town and schools, I don't know what the right way to do it, but come back to us. That one might be relatively straightforward, transportation might be relatively not so straightforward.
And what do you think in terms of these responses, how do we want to put it in the time frame? In other words, it might be the priorities for the next year in this space are X. Over time,
Yeah, again, I'm wondering what you got to say, but I would say if we're gonna pick economic vitality as a high priority, what are the things we can do now to advance
Yeah.
this? Take those, get them in the goal statement for the year. And then, you know, if you've had a chance to read the goals, there's general kind of statements, which I think we could incorporate all of these. The select board has identified these 4 areas as long-term goals for upward. And then on an annual basis, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about this?
Well, it brings the two discussions together, which is
Yeah.
where we need to be.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Well, we want to unfold, I think, this long-range plan into our goal statements, correct? As long-term kind of things and specific actions we tend to take.
are you looking for volunteers?
I am,
I will volunteer to do transportation.
I'm sure are.
You're a glutton for punishment, huh? That's a challenging one.
I think they all are.
Economic vitality.
Okay.
All right, I'll do capital planning.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. And guess what that gets you to be? Affordable housing, okay? Affordable
That's what I'm
housing.
saying.
Oh, okay, good. Right. and I
So
see.
Mike,
Mike does everything else.
No, I will, if you guys get this stuff to me, I will get it organized and produce a document. I'm interested in economic vitality, so I'd be happy to help Susan, and I have a point of view about capital planning. Right?
yep.
Great.
Okay, so we want to get this to be no later than Friday before our next select board meeting. Today's the 6th, or the 20th, so 8, 19, 18, 17. And then I'll get it done over the weekend and get it to Andrew and make sure it's still on the list and we draw it. If you get it earlier than that, we can send it out to you for review.
Would you want to try and get it a little earlier so we can all have a chance to read it and it won't be
You think we can? Sure. Or do.
So the 15th?
Yeah, let's do 15.
15th would be great.
Perfect. Great, thank you. All right. So the next item of business is the schedule for board meetings. If you turn to the back of your agenda, we've got through July. And so does anybody have any problem with any of those?
And so, yeah, the packet was the next year's one. No town meeting dates, no public hearings, and I think that you have to add the holidays that were closed for it.
And even though we have meetings scheduled in August, usually one of those meetings was one and canceled. I'm not quite there yet. All right, so do we need to approve them?
Well, so if people want to just make sure they can double check their schedules, over the summer into next year, and then just let me know in the next meeting we could approve the schedule.
So what would you like our comments
By
by?
the 15th.
Okay.
Is this on, if there's meetings that we know we're not going to be able to?
Yeah, exactly. Just so like,
So
we
we
could,
know we have.
Yeah.
I know we have kind of a quorum.
if I know we're not gonna have, if 3 people are gonna be gone, then we're gonna look for another date. So,
Right, okay.
yeah, you just,
All right? Next, the liaison assignments. I heard back from folks, I didn't hear any strenuous objections. I made one error, which is a record for me, I usually make many more than that. I think I assigned as a draft for Terry to be on the Minuteman, didn't I?
Yes.
And it turns out, of course, the board, before you two came along, we had designated Alice to continue responsibilities for that, so
To
I
finish out the building.
finish up the project, so.
That's great.
One less for you.
Yeah, I know, that's great.
Yeah. I haven't checked our new dates against any of my liaisons, but I do know that, for instance, the Board of Health often meets on Mondays.
Yeah, so does
Is
the
it-
cemetery.
sometimes they're in the morning
So
too.
the
Council
council on
Sometimes
aging.
Board of Health, sometimes needs some work. There's inevitable conflicts.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that it's not always a conflict.
Like an auction, I'm about ready to say, sold.
Yes, there were a few on that list that weren't assigned.
Yeah.
Ag committee,
I volunteered.
I thought I volunteered for Ag Committee,
Good,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
but you're right, it didn't show up
Didn't
anywhere.
show up. Any, another one?
West Concord Advisory.
Yeah, do you want subcommittees at all? Because you guys are appointing them now. The West Concord Advisory Committee, they're a subcommittee of the planning board. We have a planning board liaison. Do you want to dial?
I don't see any before, but.
I know when I did the planning board, I also went to West Concord.
Yeah,
When I could, I
I
didn't, you
could
know.
do that. I mean, I'm interested in,
Okay, and that would be the same for like Haywood Meadow stewardship for
That's usually the
NRC.
NRC.
Yeah.
ones up
So when I
trail.
can, I follow, at least I follow them.
Okay.
So West Concord will go to Susan, and the Ag goes to Jane.
Is the 2229 committee a subcommittee of something?
Nope.
It
That's
doesn't
sub-
exist. There's a committee,
Oh,
work associated with it, still exists, but we got to get that on the agenda.
Yep.
Soon to pick up the library. All right? Yes.
The only other one we anticipate, but it hasn't been formed yet, is the Affordable Housing Trust Committee,
Right.
which probably will be on my list with all the others, I don't know.
Yep.
Yep.
It's hard to know, I mean, it could be the case that could do this, as the building committee for the schools do, a member of the select board or their designated representative, it could, I don't want to presume.
Right. I just don't want to lose it on the,
No, no.
on the list.
As soon as we have a trust committee ready to go, we'll have to appoint somebody. And
Climate Action Advisory Board, Alice was.
Ooh.
And also the local cultural council. I think Terry, I think you have the West Concord in the center,
I'll do the climate action.
Concord Center District and
Right.
West Concord Junction.
But I think that makes sense to go with Terry, the three here.
Okay.
This is another one, Concord Local Cultural Council.
as soon as we get, as soon as we have one.
Oh, okay. Is this a way of getting three
And
ones?
the Climate Action Advisory Committee, James is going to do.
And then this retirement board. Actually, I don't know. That's a. I'm just trying to speak on any other committee.
I don't
So
think we've ever had one.
I've never,
either of I'm just.
Okay, so we'll add those, and then we'll turn it in from a draft to an actual document and post it online, so folks will know.
What is HFAC?
It's Hanscom Advisory,
Oh.
I had to look it up.
Hanscom Field Advisory Committee.
You know, there's two Hanscom advisory committee and hats.
Hanscom Area Council.
Okay, thank
All right.
you very much. Next, goals. So,
should we wait on those? Or,
well, I think we know we're going to amend them to take care of what we just talked about, but I certainly would want to hear your thoughts or impressions about what we, what else. So we can try to get this on our agenda and get approved soon as well.
What else going forward, or, we haven't really had a chance to sort of a quick walk through how did we do on these years. You know, I remember last year, and the board agreed to call out, as an example,
right.
affordable housing, because we always, you know, we always call out all the other categories. And we ended up putting very specific items in here, and consequently,
We got done.
they got done and we went to town and looked at them. So that's an example of, I think we did well in that way.
Well, again, that's what I hope happens with what we just talked about. We'll take those high priority items, get it early on, and preface kind of part of our long-range goals and get particular action on it.
Likewise, in the promote open and transparent government through use of enhanced technology, I think we've made the transition to Minuteman Media Network. And while I think that that's only going to keep improving, I know we've gotten feedback from many about how many of the meetings certainly are being seen. I think that's one of those that will never fall off the list, but it's certainly something that we took on over that period of time.
Well, as a short-term goal in that area, I'd like to see us bring online another meeting environment.
Another
Another meeting environment. So I don't know which one is the most appropriate, but, and we can certainly talk about it, but I'd like to get another room that is used for committee meetings, wired,
Yeah,
so that we can
absolutely.
broadcast stuff. You know, we can do everything we want to hear, we can do that, we can broadcast a few places.
So it's, right now we have, here we have the Ripley, we have Harvey Wheeler, right? So it might be Kaiser, I mean, you know, you think about
Harvey
where.
Wheeler is, I mean, it's, what I'm thinking about is something
Yeah.
like it's done here as opposed to taking a portable camera and sticking it down. We're
So
getting-
then maybe it's a
Harvey
Harvey
Wheeler isn't
Wheeler.
outfitted with
No.
permanent equipment. It's
But getting maybe in the room they use in the planning department.
Yeah, Kaiser's room.
Kaiser Road. I don't know if that's the right one.
Right, but that's a good
See if
goal.
we could
Yeah.
enhance further by bringing another room on. Other comments about long-range plans?
So in terms of looking at our, picking up on idea of some of the governance and committee training that we've talked about. I think it's very good that we continue that. And my observation this year, having gone to many meetings, both on my list as well as off my list, is that there are some departments who, on their agenda, right up front on the agenda, are listing, announce that this is, you're now being recorded, approve the minutes. They'll take some basic tasks that should be followed, and they spell it out in the beginning of their agenda. And then they set the sort of the weekly or monthly agenda. And I found that that is a terrific assist with committee members changing from, over time, even within the year. And also, people come with different backgrounds in terms of their experience working on previous committees and so forth. The cemetery committee, I just recall, the cemetery committee is an example of one of the committee formats that does that. There are certain prompts, if you will, right up front. Welcome everyone, da-da-da-da. And then they list the whole rest of their agenda. And I think it's a big assist. So whether or not we make that suggestion to Carrie to incorporate in the training, or we do something that gets out to all the chairs and gives them
The agenda
give
format.
them a couple examples, I think it would be helpful.
Suggestion. And we will do, we don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but we will have in the fall again, another educational program would be aimed at committees and boards here in town. If we go ahead with that, we can make sure that gets included
In there as well.
in training, produce some templates that every committee could grab off online and move the process along. Others? Okay. So we each have our assignments for the incorporation of the long-range plan into goals. And so again, if you get that to me on the 15th, what I'll do, I'll take a crack at producing a draft 2019-20 goals. And I'll incorporate the things that they'll be bulleted-like things. They're gonna have a longer text associated with your plans. The goals tend to be kind of bulleted. All right? All right, thank you very much.
But, so that sounds like it would have those items that we just identified. But what about some of these other goals that might be continuing from last year? Like I liked a lot of what Linda had written up. I had written some and Linda had written some. Sometimes we overlap, but our goals might also be then things from last year that we're continuing, right?
Yes.
I think we'll get rid of those things we've done.
Right,
Right.
And some of the format stays the same, but we can change the content.
right.
Which it has historically. I mean, these are not all things that we wrote for the first time last year.
Right. So it would have both things that are on here that are continuing and things we're adding in from
These things,
the Envision conference. Okay, great.
things that you can take off. 'Cause you've
Yeah.
gotten them done.
Okay.
And again, this is really an iterative process. It usually takes a while. We didn't get our goals for last year approved, I think, until August.
Right.
I mean, I wanted to get it done earlier, but it takes. All right, thank you very much. So we received the Home Consortium sub-receipt agreement from Concord. Liz?
Ah,
Jump in time. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I'm Liz West, and I'm glad to be here, and welcome to the new board members, and nice to see everybody. Okay, so I'm here to present some administrative agreement that doesn't move the money along, doesn't create a new project or new units, but it keeps us in compliance with the HUD audit from the consortium. So the Home Consortium is a group of 13 communities that Concord belongs to that receives federal money through this consortium, which is managed by Newton. And when the money comes from HUD, Newton, as the administrating community, has an agreement with HUD. And then when the money then is allocated to the communities, and then when it's authorized to a project, there's a funding agreement with that project. What this does is have a funding agreement between Newton and the member community. So it just provides sort of a continuity of funding agreements. And it's an annual administrative activity, and it authorizes the Concord to spend the FY19, in this case, money before the end of the fiscal year. So it was a sort of a catch-up administrative activity. And
You think he'll be able to?
so we have reviewed this with town council. So same town council shared with Lexington. So he did one review for both communities. And there's no new policies or procedures that are introduced here. And
When did Concord join the group, Liz? It was about 7 years ago or so. We're relatively new to the program, but we have benefited from it.
Yes, exactly.
It's
So
not a lot of money, so it's hard for towns to participate in communities to come up with a project. So occasionally other towns will allow another community to use their funds.
So there's two things, exactly. So there's monies that are allocated to Concord directly, and that's a formula funding based on various parameters. You can borrow money from other communities, and then there's also a competitive pool of money that you can apply to. So Peter Bulkley, those last 4 units, we used a lot of home funds for that, and we've done some other work for the Housing Authority. I think 2 projects. Yes. And then we're saving money, or in the plan would be to use some for Junction Village. I think in the Junction Village budget, they have $200,000 set aside coming from the Home Consortium, and we hope that would be possible. I think Concord gets about $30,000 a year, something like that.
Again, we have approved this before.
This is the first time for this particular agreement. You've approved other agreements, and they all kind of look the same, really, truthfully. I mean, they really are the same requirement, just in their different forms. So I think that there'd be 2 parts. One is to vote to authorize this to be signed, and then to consider whether you would want to have the town manager be authorized to assign in subsequent years, so that you didn't have to come back and hear this again in September, October. But that would be at the pleasure of the board.
Well, we have to take up the second one
At a later date.
different meeting.
Yeah, okay.
It's not on our agenda for tonight, but it's a good suggestion.
I see. Very good.
Liz, can you say something briefly about each one? There looks like there's 4 items in here. The housing development, loan repayment collection, home administration and consortium administration.
Yep, so those are the 4, this is the Schedule A, which is really the funds that you're getting for FY19. So housing development would be funds that haven't been allocated to a project, and we've really put those aside for Junction Village.
Okay.
That's $19,505. This would be for FY15 money, 19 money. The loan repayment to Lexington, that was the last piece. I think that Concord borrowed $46,000 from Lexington for the Peter Bulkley, and so every year I've been paying it off, and this would be the last installment. The home administration, you get 10%, maybe 10%? 10% of your allocation every year to administer the home program, and we use that to offset the RHSO membership fee. And then this consortium administration, and it's the member community contribution towards the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. So that's a major plan, and all communities contributed towards that, and that would be coming up next year.
Okay.
And does everybody contribute the same, or is it size-based?
It was size-based.
Population-based.
I'm not sure how the percentages were.
Liz, can you just clarify one thing you said, which is, because obviously I'm familiar with home funds. When you mentioned you're paying off the amount of money that was borrowed, you mean from the current year's allotment?
Yes, exactly. So Concord borrowed 46,000 from Lexington. And again, when we talk about this money, this is really all in the Newton money. The money never comes to the Concord budget, or the finance department doesn't actually see this money, so it's not really the same thing. But and then every year have paid off, and this is the last installment of the repayment.
So it's additional money to us.
No, it's money leaving Concord, repaying Lexington.
No, I know, but the agreement in general brings money to Concord
Yes.
for affordable housing that
Yes.
we wouldn't otherwise have.
Exactly, and the money's always come to Concord without the benefit of a 40-page grant agreement. So now there's no change in the funding. It doesn't bring additional funding. It just provides more formal conditions around that funding.
Any other questions or comments? Motion, okay.
I move to authorize the town manager to sign the home subrecipient agreement contract number M1908.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much, Liz. And I will note to Andrew, on the subsequent agenda, was the issue of whether the board will want to authorize the town manager to act on our behalf, rather than need to come to the select board.
The only comment I would make about that, it may very well be appropriate for that to be the route we go, but it does keep us informed about some of the additional effort and money that's going into affordable housing projects, and brings it to the attention of the public. So that would be the only.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
The pros and cons, figure out what's best. We can always ask the town manager if we allocate it to him to on an annual basis, come
To report.
tell us what's going on, but
Exactly.
we'll find out. All right, thank you. Next item on our agenda is public comments. That's Liz. Public comments?
My name is Brooks Reed. I live at 366 Estabrook Road. We were talking earlier about recording equipment around town, and I was wondering if you might consider recording executive sessions of the select board. I happen to know that the sessions are not recorded, and we've observed from the recent meeting minutes that executive sessions that happened literally years ago are having their minutes finalized now, and it's hard to believe that the minutes accurately reflect what happened in the actual meeting, especially years later when there are different select board members that weren't even on the committee, on the select board, when the minutes were approved. So it would be very helpful, I think, if you recorded the executive session so that there was a independent, accurate record, so that when you looked back years on what you'd done, there was an accurate record available. It's hard to believe that what was produced actually reflects what occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. Good suggestion. I think that even though, I'll ask the town manager if I'm, even though the minutes are produced late, as you well indicated, I think they're from notes. It's not like trying to recollect, 2 years ago what happened. But I think it's a good suggestion, so I appreciate it.
I'd like to address the business of the notes. If you may be aware that in Sudbury in 2017, there was a executive session involving discussions about a 40B housing project. And the judge ended up awarding attorney's fees to the defendants in that case because the select board had been violating the law intentionally in its meeting, and the recording is what convinced the judge that the select board had acted illegally. That happened in 2017. You can look it up under, if you Google Sudbury attorney's fees, you'll find the case. It actually happened.
Oh,
There was lying.
interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2017.
Susanna Kay, 366 Estabrook Road. With the current town manager retiring, and given the Envision Concord and Open Space Plan as published currently, They have goals of interconnecting open land with trails and paths. Will the town and their lawyers repeat the actions set by the precedent of suing acknowledged private landowners to attempt to take hostile control of their property? Is this our new Concord? Is it going to be hostile to landowners who have historically given permission to walk on private land? And if this is the new policy, is it going to apply equally to everyone? For example, Great Meadows, or for example, Powder Mill Road. There are many roads in Concord. And if it's not applied equally to everyone, that's going to be a problem. Also, would it be like it was in the case of Estabrook? Will the discussions leading up to the lawsuits that supposedly, if you are going to be doing this equally across the board, you will be planning lawsuits against the homeowners on Great Meadows and these other roads, will these also be in secret, as you did with Estabrook, where there is no record for the town or any town members to weigh in? Thank you.
Are there any other citizen comments? Proctor.
Diane Proctor, 57 Sudbury Road, speaking for myself, not for the League of Women Voters. When one attends, Linda, you reminded me of something so important. When one attends other committee meetings, and I'm going to particularly channel the school committee, the documents that the school committee members are looking at are on the table as you come in. And so while that's in many ways perhaps an excessive use of paper, it does give whoever is gathered at the audience ready access to the documents that are sitting in front of you. If one wishes to save the paper, one might use these screens and put the documents up for people to observe in the room, so that there would be a concurrent observation between what you're looking at and what others are looking at. Because at the present moment, as one scrambles on one's iPad, computer, whatever one has, trying to find whatever documents you're looking at, although you've presented them nicely in the website, it's not always easy to toggle, so to speak, back and forth. I just think that would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
Good idea.
Additional comments? All right. So our next committee appointments, committee nominations, I think. Right?
Liaisons.
Miscellaneous correspondence?
I don't think I have any miscellaneous correspondence.
Yeah.
We have the net zero,
Oh, I'm beg your pardon.
but we're skipping liaison.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But we could skip.
Back up, rewind the tape, and go to liaison reports. Linda?
Bear with me, I've got quite a list, but I'll be quick here. I already mentioned I went to the opening of the visitor center and the kickoff of the bike sharing program, and the gift from the Rotary Club was acknowledged there as well. I went to a working session of the planning board where they had a preliminary list of zoning bylaws that would possibly impact positively a change in the availability of affordable housing. And they're going to be working on that, specifically on their goals for the year, with the expectation that 1, 2, 3, whatever they decide they can adequately review and study and be prepared to bring to us for the next town meeting. I went to the last meeting of the Affordable Housing Funding Committee where they wrapped up their report that we received, and there were some very specific recommendations in the 2-page final report that they made, so I hope everyone has a chance to read that before we do our goals and all of that other material. And once again, thank them on behalf of the Select Board for all that they had done. I went to the HATS meeting, and almost the entire session that evening. Well, first of all, let me say that Lincoln, Lexington, Concord, and Bedford were represented that evening, and there was quite an audience. And they distributed material, including this that is available. I'll leave with Andrew, and if anyone wants to read it, on Reinventing Wires, the Future of Landlines and Networks. And basically, the evening's presentation talked about the risks of 5G, talked about some of the activities that surrounding towns are already taking to address this. And one of the one of the towns they cited was Burlington, has come up with a policy regarding 5G small cell installations, and in fact impose some kind of annual certification program for the equipment with fees attached. And Verizon said, no, I don't think we're going to do this. We don't want to set a precedent. Our light plant board was represented there that evening, and basically this is touting the benefits of fiber optic, much like our CMLP program. And some people feel that the 5G small cell installation is in direct competition with our own enterprise fund. So I have one recommendation coming out of that meeting, that at some point I'd like to hear from CMLP in a future meeting on this very topic, and whomever else we think might be appropriate to come in that evening.
The CIO has been manager essentially of our
Broadband service.
broadband service.
But we would also want to hear from the light plant, David, for example.
Yeah, as well. And that also relates to some correspondence that we all received from Sheldon Hines. Yeah, on this topic. Not the recommendation I'm making, but he also commented on that. I also attended the Rec Commission meeting, and there is an opening on the Rec Commission. They're looking for a member, and so if anyone out in the audience is, get your green cards in. They are obviously busy reopening for the summer season and all their summer camps and so forth. And they have had to reopen their search for the tourism manager for the visitor center. Apparently the person was offered the job and then may have gotten and accepted, but then may have been convinced by her current employer with some inducement to stay. I attended the Holocaust Memorial service last night, and made some brief comments, and then read the proclamation representing the select board. And then I also attended the Concord Housing Authority meeting last week, and I would say that they're working with Liz Russ and trying to determine what their next steps are in terms of the building a unit, but still waiting to hear from, the town is still waiting to hear from, is it Mass DOT, I guess, for the...
You're talking about the housing unit that's associated with the
Jerome property.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's the highlights.
Okay.
I attended the NRC meeting on May 1st, and there was a discussion of, there were, as there always are, specific issues to do with individual homeowners and changes within their buffer zones or encroachments. The interesting discussion from a select board or from a larger perspective was to do with, one, they also brought up the 68A, which we've now heard about on Monument Street. So it had come across their desk as well. And there was also a discussion by Concord Green about the number of trees. There's a study done, and a significant amount of the trees have been determined to be unhealthy and need to come down. And it evoked a very interesting exchange from a member of the planning board who was there observing, discussing that while this wasn't, the tree bylaw was not being triggered because there was not construction or significant renovation going on, the spirit of the tree bylaw was in play, and there was an encouragement to think about that. Think about how, if, when you're taking out this number of trees and the calipers of those trees, those mature trees, how do you go about replacing them? And are you, how closely in line are we staying? Obviously, we don't have jurisdiction, but it was, I think it was actually sort of the right, it was one of the tenets of Envision Concord. It was one committee talking to another committee about a translation.
Sure.
I attended an event, not sure what it was called, the West Concord Junction Cultural District event in April. And it was a great event, well attended, a number of good ideas, especially there's a lot of interest in the pedestrian bridge that might be constructed from the West Concord, Baker Avenue medical area. And that seemed to be a possible game changer for the whole, bringing in a lot more business, more economic vitality, more cultural,
Lunches.
lunches, everything. And the other thing I went to was, on May 1st, I went to the cut-through traffic workshop, and I only was there for part of it. It was pretty exciting because Concord, I guess, is a leader in this area. This is a new type of study that hasn't been done a lot of places yet, but because of that, the consultant was kind of struggling to answer all the questions because this is one of the first times they've ever done this. It is a global problem with the traffic apps. And a lot of questions came up about traffic calming. And a lot of people seemed unaware that we had a traffic calming policy. I went back and read through all of it myself. So kind of a good start to talking about all that. That we solved that.
I attended the Hugh Carroll Trust Committee where they were busy. We've already dealt with it on our consent calendar dealing with camp scholarships. And their next meeting is going to be an executive session where they'll be reviewing the policies for disbursement of funds. I also attended the school committee, and I would say that while first of all, they welcomed new members. One of them happens to be with us in the audience tonight. But in addition to that, two. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. And an old member. And but what I remember most about the school committee meeting was the recognition of the students and the folks who were participating in the special education activities these were teachers or administrators who had been recommended as affecting somebody with special needs education. So they were all received these awards. It was a number of people and quite a nice ceremony. So that was pretty good.
I wanted to ask one question that came out of Terry's report, and that was on the traffic calming. Have we started to, this has come up, and I've been stopped by numerous citizens, so we could put this under miscellaneous correspondence, questioning about when and where the 25-mile-an-hour speed zones are going to be put in and what to expect in terms of enforcement.
I think they were all up. There was a delay because the ground was frozen, so
Right.
the board acted in December, I think it was, and they really couldn't put the signposts in until end of March, early April. So I think they were all up. They were bagged for a while because we
Right.
wanted them all to come off at the same time, but I think they're in place.
I think we could do a better job probably of
announcing it. It was
of giving a map or just saying,
Sure.
watch for this. So.
All right, thank you all very much. Let me say while it's on my mind here that we approved the charge of the middle school building committee. And we have the folks who are there by dint of office appointed, with one exception, I think the facilities person.
And
We now have,
and the town manager.
and the town manager, we have 6 citizens to be on that committee. So I would really encourage folks who are interested in this. We got, I think, one late this afternoon. Alicia wrote me and said she sent one electronically, which we received. So I think we have like maybe 6. So I'd really be great if you're interested in this. It'll be very important to the town, as you know, and so I encourage people to submit their green cards to Susan. I would, you're the one on the committee, I would suggest that that you might want to review those names and maybe come prepared to suggest some for us. And we will be doing that next time. We'll be, we'll do it offline, sorry. So next, I think now we have the letter of support from the board as building regulations and standard reading, the net zero stretch code. We got a letter from that. I think it'd be a great thing for us to support.
I do too, and I met with Tammy, Representative Gouveia today, who's actually going to be speaking to this in session tomorrow. So the timing would be important. If we're going to do it, it should be done tonight.
Yeah, I talked to Kate Hanley. The board wants to give their support. She'll take care of everything tomorrow morning.
Great.
Actually, I was going to send her a text tonight, and she was going to get on the
And
ball.
that will include getting a hold of our representative so she knows we've taken action.
I could include that.
Or we
that
could
it's
ask Jane to do that.
I'm happy to.
it's an online form that they had on there, so I'll have to look at it, but I'll also tell her just to tell Tammy as well. That we signed
So I
on.
would entertain a motion unless there's an objection to send a letter of support.
I move to authorize the chair to sign and transmit a letter of support to the Board of Building Regulations and Standards, RAID Net Zero Stretch Code. Town staff obviously will assist in electronic submittal as we just discussed, and notification of our representatives.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, it's this time of the year, and so we have a really large number of sets of appointments, reappointments, and nominations, but I see people putting their coats on, so I'm going to jump to the end of the meeting. Because as you may know, tonight will be the last meeting of the select board that our current town manager will be attending unless something goes terribly wrong. So, Chris, I know we had a chance to say so at town meeting, but again, on behalf of the board and the citizens of the town, we're grateful to you for all you did and wish you the very best.
Thank you.
And don't look so happy.
You know you are a resident of the town, and there are boards and committees.
You can sneak them on.
I know, believe me.
Sneak them on that middle school building.
They're intimidating.
All right, so
Are you
next,
ready?
I'm ready for committee nominations.
All right, I put forward for nomination, let's see, Melissa Maxwell, 449 Barrett's Mill Road, to the Agricultural Committee for an associate unexpired term with the expiration of 5/31/21. I nominate Ravi Faya, and I mispronouncing, 169 Plainfield Road, to the Zoning Board of Appeals as an associate member for a term to expire May 31st, 2022. I nominate Carl Seidman of 93 Wright Road to the West Concord Advisory Committee for a full position for a term to expire May 31st, 2022. And I nominate the NMI Starmet
Yes,
Reuse Plan.
If
What
we,
is that?
if we had time to get the other names on the agenda, I was going to try to.
Okay, so I don't have names.
We don't have any, and the middle school one was a reminder from the earlier part of the
Okay, so I'm just
agenda.
We already did that.
Okay.
All right, so now we move on to committee appointments.
All right. We appoint Eugene Chang of 3 Concord Green, number 6, to the PEG Access Advisory Committee for an unexpired term to expire on May 31st, 2020. We move to appoint Amy Kaiser of 294 Comm to the West Concord Advisory Committee for a full unexpired term to expire May 31st,
2021.
Okay, 2021.
Yep.
Ah, okay. And we move to appoint Susan Madozan ENIAC, of 392 Border Road to the West Concord Advisory Committee for a full term, or full membership, for a term to expire 5/31/2022.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye. List of committee reappointments. Lucy Rosenborough of 56 Elm Street, Rossborough, of 56 Elm Street to the Hugh Cardinal Trust Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2022. Judy Terry of 368 College Road to the Hugh Cardinal Trust Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2022. Mike Lawson of 1695 Lowell Road to the Financial Audit Advisory Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Under administrative appointments, Mary Barrett as our town accountant for a term to expire May 31st, 2020.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And on the town manager committee reappointments with our approval, Janet Miller of 1647 Main Street to the Comprehensive Sustainable Energy Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2022. Jerry Frankel of 132 Jenny Dugan Road to the Comprehensive Sustainable Energy Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2022. And Greg Higgins of 228 Park Lane to the Natural Resources Commission for a term to expire May 31st, 2022.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye. And the town manager administrative appointments with select board approval. Gabrielle White, Inspector of Animals, for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. Patricia Clifford, Assistant Town Clerk, for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. Kari Tari, Town Clerk, for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. Carrie LaFleur, Town Treasurer and Town Collector, for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. Carrie LaFleur as well to the Finance Director for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. Cheryl Robertson, Deputy Town Treasurer and Deputy Town Collector for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. And Mina Makaris of Anderson and Krieger as Town Council for a term to expire May 31st, 2020.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Ann. That was a mouthful.
Thank you.
That happens every year about this time. I think that ends our agenda, so I would be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.